Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Hoop. Welcome back, everyone, to Inside the Hoop. My name is Kim Christopherson, and I've got my friend here, Ginger McLeod. And as you can see, we do not have Deanna here this week, but rather than just have an empty seat, we said, wait a minute, let's invite one of the coolest guys around. This is Mr. Ken Stevens, and he truly is one of my favorite people for so many reasons. But today he's on as our guest because he's going to be talking about machine embroidery and sewing machine repair and all that jazz, right? Welcome, Ken.
It's nice to be here.
Well, it's nice to have you. Ken and I go way back, don't we?
Yeah, 20 years.
20 years? Oh my gosh, has it been that long? I think so. Ken and I have been friends for many, many years, as he said. I have a dear friend in my life who is Ken's wife, and that is Cindy. And for many, many years, we were in the same quilt group. And so I spent a lot of time just at your house learning from Cindy and learning from you as well. And today you are actually repairing sewing machines and embroidery machines. How did you get into that? Because that's not your background, is it?
No, my background's electrical engineer, but I was working at IBM. Then I went work here in Logan at Campbell Scientific.
Yeah.
Retired. My girlfriend's quilt shop was just coming into its own. They'd been in business for a year. Mike needed somebody to repair sewing machines, and so I said yes, not knowing what that meant.
Well,
and taught myself to where I am today.
Yeah, well, based on your experience with Cindy and all the sewing that she did over the years, I'm sure you did a little bit of, little work here and there on those machines,
Yes.
Right?
But the problem is, if you're going to be a repairman, don't have a wife that knows everything about machines, who's in her sewing room and says, this machine's not working.
Yeah.
And that's all she says.
Yeah.
And I just would walk in there, fix her problem on the spot.
A little tinkering here and there, right?
That's it.
Right. Well, I'm sure this is going to be a really great episode for all of you out there because we've all got those machines. They all need a little bit of tinkering now and then. And there's probably some things that you can do to help us with that, right?
Yes. So Ken is going to give us some advice today on how to keep any model or make of machine in good working condition. So just some tips and tricks that will always help us keep those machines clean and running great. And then especially when we really need to take it into the repairman, because sometimes we do have those issues and we really need experts like Ken.
Yeah, we might go a little too long, right, Ginger?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
might go a little bit too long.
And what, Ken, then what would you say about that? Like, what is like a good schedule for repair or machine maintenance, rather, so that we don't have to end up with those repairs?
I think my general guideline is if you're sewing every day, like say greater than 15 hours a week, you ought to have your machine oiled and cleaned twice a year.
Oh, okay.
If you're under 12, definitely once a year is okay.
Okay. That's a good rule of thumb.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
So less than 12, over 15, and gray area the rest of it.
Well, so is that different with the sewing machine versus an embroidery machine?
No, they all have the same mechanism. The only difference between embroidery and a sewing machine is there's no feed dogs.
Okay.
Oh.
So, because you're not moving it. But the rest of it, for example, in a baby lock, you have a unity and a spirit. They're exactly the same machine minus the feed dogs.
Okay. All right.
I like
So
that.
what are some of the most common repairs that you see needing to be done?
Well, dirty is the number one thing people bring it in.
Oh, I think I might be guilty of that, right?
I've taken more lint out of sewing machines than I could make a canvas bag out of.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, that's probably the most common one.
Okay.
And then it's the noises.
Yeah.
They get a new noise, just like a car. They don't know what it is. They're scared because sewing machines anymore are expensive,
Sure.
very expensive.
Yeah,
And they don't want to hurt it because that's an investment in their mind.
absolutely.
And so they'll bring it in and they'll have a noise and we'll say, when's the last time you had it cleaned? Because that'll take 90% of the noises out of the machine.
Is that right?
Yep. But they'll be breaking threads. Well, cleaning usually will help breaking threads. It's the worst thing for a sewer is to have a breaking thread. Then there will be just the parts we have to replace. You know, they may have thread tangled up inside and we have to put a new threader hook in, or we have to put a new rotary hook in.
Okay.
Sometimes it's as easy as just putting a new bobbin case.
Okay.
Nice.
All right?
So we're at home. We hear the sound. We hear the rickety or the squealing or whatever it may be. What should be like our first plan of action?
Always the first plan of action, turn the machine off.
Ah, okay. When in doubt, turn it off. Huh?
When in doubt, turn it off.
Okay.
I like that.
Wait, 15, 20 seconds. Just let things settle out. Turn it on and start sewing again and listen for that noise. Now, if it was a really grinding noise or a big clanking, turn it back on, but then go slowly and turn your hand wheel.
Ah,
And see if you feel a vibration. If there's something that's out of a jar,
okay.
you can feel it in that hand wheel a little bit. And if that's okay, put your speed down to slow and turn it on and listen again.
Okay.
And if you're not hearing it, turn it up, turn it up. And there may not be that noise again. It may have been something that bound with lint in the up and down.
Okay.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do that initially. That's the first thing to do.
Okay,
Like it.
that's great. Now I know oftentimes we've heard over the years a little phrase. It's called TNT. Do you want to tell us all about what is TNT? What does that mean, and why you should always think TNT before doing anything?
That is true. Absolutely true. This is the one thing you can get your confidence back that your sewing machine is all right.
Okay.
TNT stands for thread, needle, tension.
Okay.
If you ask anybody what is their biggest problem, they're going to tell you tension.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only about 10% of the problem. Most of it can be fixed with thread and needle for the problems they hear. So thread is, you first need a good quality thread.
Okay.
One thing most people don't know is thread goes bad on the shelf.
Yeah.
You can go to anybody and they'll have a wall full of thread.
Yeah. Maybe they
So-
inherited that thread, right? Or
Yep.
they got it
From
at a
their
garage sale.
great-grandma.
That's right.
Or a garage sale.
Yeah.
If it's brittle, if you just snap it a little bit and it breaks, throw it away.
Yeah.
If it holds on a snap, you're probably okay. But on older thread, you get a lot more lint
Sure.
and fuzz that builds around, and that's just going to hamper your sewing. The needle part is anytime your sewing doesn't look good, change the needle. That's the basic rule.
Sure.
Change the needle. Now, a lot of people don't know what needle to use. I'll give you just a general rule.
Ooh,
If
good.
it's going to be fine, it should be 75 and under, 75, 11. If it's heavy, you're sewing some
We're talking about
leather,
heavy fabrics. Sure.
then you want to be 90 or above.
Okay.
But in general, an 80-12 will do everything.
Yeah.
I like it.
My wife, the expert, never used anything but other than 80-12.
Yeah. That was her
Okay.
go-to needle, wasn't it?
Always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like
And
it.
then after you've done those two things, and by the way, when you're working on thread and needle, power the machine off, power it back on, just to reset things to make sure you still got the same problem.
Yeah.
Now we come to tension. People don't know what to do tension.
Oh, that's scary to mess with, isn't it?
Yeah, so let's talk about embroidery tension,
Okay.
because that's the most visual that you can look at for your machine.
All right.
Most people will have their colored thread in top and they'll have a white or light colored in the bottom.
Sure.
So here's the tension problem. You're seeing the white on your top of your project.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It's ugly.
Yep.
You can just makes everything look jagged. So that means you've got too much top tension and you're pulling the bobbin tension up.
Okay.
Now, if you turn your project over and you don't see any white, now you've got too much bobbin tension and you're pulling all the top thread to the bobbin.
Oh, okay.
Now, you probably can still sew if it looks nice and tight, but you're using all your expensive thread when all you need is the bobbin thread to make the project work.
Okay.
So you have thread, needle, tension.
Yeah.
Now, on a sewing machine, if you're thinking about tension and your project doesn't look good, you can't see it quite as often. So you should do two things. Take your project out, get a piece of old fabric, and set yourself up for a straight stitch. Widen it just a little bit, and then sew a line. Then turn it over, and you should see the top thread as a dot and the bobbin thread as a line. If you see that, tension's pretty good. If you see a lot of the top thread, say like half and half, you got too much bobbin thread.
Okay.
To really check it, then you should do a zigzag. Widen it to about 3 inches. Turn it on to about normal speed, not really fast, and sew off a line on the zigzag.
Okay.
When you look at that, you turn it over, you just want to see a little bigger dot on the points. If you see that, then you've got good sewing going on. But a lot of times what will happen is you'll see a big line of the top thread.
Okay.
That means your zigzag is going to be a little bit loose on top. And so you need to correct the tension so you got a good balance.
Wow. These are things
I know, I
that
have
the
learned
trained eye, the trained eye knows what to look for, and now we all know it too.
Right.
That's
I
right.
love that. I would have never
So-
thought about those things.
So fantastic.
And if those look good and you still don't like the tension, you ought to come into somebody that sews and talk to them before you bring your machine in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it.
so that it doesn't turn into a bigger issue, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's when really expensive repairs can happen, is when, you know, those small things are looked over until it becomes the big thing, right?
Right.
But the biggest thing is if you're not happy sewing, you're not getting the therapy that you want. All right?
Amen. I think that is so true.
That
So
is.
true.
love that.
Absolutely.
Okay, Ken, so what's one of the strangest repairs that you've had? Like, what have you found odd things in a machine?
And
or-
don't talk about my machine repair that you did last week, right?
Well, the strangest one that we had is that we had all these little bugs in the bottom of
What?
the machine.
bugs.
Bugs, like creepy crawly bugs?
Yeah, but they were dead.
Oh,
They weren't
my
creepy.
goodness.
But
Okay.
they had stored this old machine, Grandma's machine, in the garage. And they just kind of got in there. I don't know where they came from.
Okay, that's
But it
not
just
gross.
kind of set us back. Oh, what has I got in?
Yeah.
So when we saw that machine took us a while because we took it all apart.
Yeah.
I didn't know where things were up.
Oh my gosh.
And it was working. I didn't know how good it was working.
Yeah. Wow.
But the worst machine, the absolute worst
I don't know
machine
if I want to hear it.
for a normal person that sews all the time.
Yeah.
I opened up the bobbin case, took the needle plate off, and I couldn't even see
No.
the inner rotary hook.
Yeah.
That metal thing that you put the bobbin case in,
Sure.
it was all lint.
Oh, my goodness.
So then when we
Yikes.
opened the whole machine up, the lint had gotten over to where the electronics were.
Wow.
And that,
That's a problem.
yeah, that is a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Lint usually is an insulator,
Yeah.
but if there's moisture around or something like this, it could become and short the board out. And if you short your main board out, not to scare anybody, that's $1,000 job minimum.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so
Okay.
lint,
This-
I'm
yes.
hearing, is the biggest problem.
I would say that that's what I'm
A dirty
cleaning
machine is the biggest
my
problem.
machine most often is to get out the little lint. And it's actually like really therapeutic. And kind of like, like peeling a sunburn or something. You're going, ooh, what more lint can I get on there? And I usually just take a little cotton swab type of thing and just clean out my bobbin case in that area. Is that what you would recommend?
That's what I would recommend. I like the cotton swabs.
Yeah.
They are selling now really tiny cotton
Yes.
swabs that they have.
Yeah.
And if you're in a small area, they're good. They don't quite pick up the lint the way I like it. I like it to come up loose. But people shouldn't be afraid of taking off their needle plate, taking their bobbin out, and seeing that whole area right around the feed dogs and the outer rotary hook that's in there, the bobbin case that's in. Just take your swab and just keep twirling it all around. Put it in any corner you can find.
Kind of snag that stuff,
And you
right?
can't hurt anything in the machine by doing that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I know what I'm doing this afternoon.
I know. I was just going to say that. Do you have any words of advice, parting advice for everyone out there listening about what's like maybe the first thing you'd want them to do after this episode when they go back to their sewing machines or their embroidery machines? What should they be doing?
Take off the needle plate, take off the bobbin, pull your bobbin case out, check all the lint that's in there. Hopefully there isn't any, and clean it out.
Yeah.
The second thing is look and see when you had it in the last time. Machines have to be oiled. There's an upper shaft with bushing and a lower shaft with bushing.
Okay.
They also should have your timing belts inspected. They tend to crack over time.
Oh.
Okay.
However, the good news is I've only replaced one in 10 years of working on a machine.
Is that right?
All right.
Okay.
You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sitting here going, I think I need a little spa day for my machine.
Yeah.
And maybe a little attention from me on a daily basis or maybe a weekly basis just to kind of check things out underneath the lid, right?
Yeah.
And I have one other point.
Okay.
Change your needle more often. When in doubt,
yes.
change that needle.
Yeah.
If you hear
That's
a
a great
popping
one.
sound, you got a dull needle going through, especially in embroidery, because you got your stabilizer underneath. That needle comes down and it's a round point. It's going to pop through.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be, you're going to hear a kind of noise. So change the needle.
Wow.
All right. I'm going home to change the needle and check my lint and see when it was last serviced.
And do a zigzag stitch and all the
Right.
things. I'm going to go back and watch this episode probably at least 3 more times.
Yeah.
Just so that I can take notes too. Those were all really great
Yes,
tips, Ken.
fantastic.
Thank you so much for being our guest.
You're welcome.
Isn't he the greatest, guys? Oh my
really
gosh.
is.
If you loved Ken's tips, let us know in the notes because those were really good things to think about and keep in mind as we go into, back into our sewing rooms. And like you said, if something's not working right, you're not getting the therapy that you need during your sewing session, right?
Right.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much, Ken. Well, everyone, that was a great episode. Don't you think? I'm so excited to go home and clean my machine. Who knew? All right. Well, we hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Be sure to join us for next week's episode, where we're going to be talking about how to take those stitched or those applique designs and turn them into this finished project. And we're going to be doing that with the use of Kimber blanks. You know the Kimber blanks. They are so unique and fun to work with. We're going to show you some really great ideas on how to use them, what makes them special, all the things. Until next week, everyone. Keep doing what you love and keep experiencing the joy of creativity. Bye-bye.